Okay.
Recording in progress.
All right, I can declare a quorum and call the meeting to order. I'll ask our clerk, Georgia Linger, to call roll for attendance.
Great. Counselor Simpson?
Here.
Counselor Gonzalez?
Here.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Here.
Counselor Christine Lewis?
Present.
Council President Peterson is excused also. Counselor Nolan?
Here, but just barely.
And Deputy Council President Huang.
Present. Thank you. And before we begin our agenda items, can we please play the safety video for our in-person attendees?
I'm Mike Reese, and I'm the Dive Safety Officer here at the Oregon Zoo, and safety is a big part of my job. Some of the things we consider here is diver safety. I'm out here at the Oregon Zoo, and you're at the Metro Regional Center. The council chamber is located on the 3rd floor of this building. In the event of fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room, go down the steps to the 2nd floor, and exit through the main entrance by the reception desk and gather in the courtyard outside the entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the front desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you.
Okay, great. So first I want to just acknowledge a change in our agenda. Before moving into our business items, just want to let folks know tuning in, that we have moved agenda item 5.1, the 2024 Urban Growth Management COO recommendations from today's agenda to the September 12th meeting. If you're here to comment on this item, you can still do so today during public communication on non-agenda items. So we'll go ahead and move to public communication. I will now open public communications on non-agenda items. And Georgia, could you please describe to the audience our procedures for the public communication portion of the meeting?
Yes. If anyone wishes to testify on non-agenda items, now is the time to do so. Public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes. I will manage a timer to go off at the 3-minute mark. If you have not already signed up to speak, you can do so now. If you are joining us on Zoom, you can sign up to testify by raising your hand on Zoom. Depending on your version of Zoom, the raise hand function has its own tab or is located within the reactions tab. Those calling in can raise their hands by dialing *9. If you are joining us in person, you can sign up by filling out one of the blue cards in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. For those joining us on Zoom, I will promote you to a full panelist when it is your turn to testify. I will call on your name or phone number when it is your turn to testify, and a window will appear asking you to accept being promoted to a panelist. Once you click accept, your Zoom window will close for just a brief moment and you will rejoin as a panelist. We will be able to turn on your camera if you like. As a reminder, you do not need to give your physical address. However, please introduce yourself for the record before testifying. Counselor, we have 2 people signed up to testify on non-agenda items. Don't see anyone in the audience yet. And these 2 will be testifying together.
Okay.
So I'd like to call up Cody McGraw and Desmond Hardison. You can sit at either one of those. Yep.
Okay, thanks for having us. Hi, Juan. Hi, I can't say your name. Garrett, Duncan, Christine, and Ashton. Good morning. My name is Cody McGraw, and this is my colleague, Desmond Hardison. We represent Guide on the Side, a change management firm that is COVID certified. We're here today to talk about Metro's RFQU 4269, Capacity Building and Technical Assistance Housing and Homeless Systems. While we are thrilled to be selected for this RFQU, we are concerned that larger firms, both local and out of state, with limited direct experience with Portland's houseless community might dominate the upcoming RFPs from this RFQU due to their deeper understanding of government systems. Us testifying today is an attempt to level the playing field, and there are a few things we ask you to be aware of. 1, we care about you. We care about Metro's leaders and staff and recognize that you are balancing many community interests. 2, we're not just a small firm. Our team, along with our key subcontractors from this RFQU, bring a wealth of experience. 3, negative press surrounding the housing bond may stem from hiring larger or out-of-state firms that bypass smaller firms like us. 4, our focus is on shifting from competition to collaboration, which includes partnering with larger firms that value our input and engaging with those that scored lower on this RFQU but are already having a significant impact on homelessness in the community. So we work with our minds, but we lead from our hearts, which is why I brought my colleague Desmond. And so Desmond, my man, why do you feel we and many of our partners are qualified to do this work? Just give them a sample.
Because we live here, for one thing, in this area, and we know, speaking for myself, and you've done it for some years, but speaking for myself, I've been with Street Roots since the very beginning, and we've worked with homeless people. I've worked with them for years, and we both got experience. And we know what's going on here in our town, in our area. I don't think big corporations or big companies quite have that boots on the ground here kind of experience, you know. And we know a lot about how to work with homeless. We know a lot. Trust me, we've been grinding for years.
All right, thank you. And so in closing, during a recent conversation with someone at Metro, they mentioned 3 key questions council members often ask. I don't know if this is true. Who did you meet? What did they say? How will you act on it? You just met Desmond and me. You just heard our concerns and the things we ask you to be aware of. The only question left is, how will you act?
Maybe I can ask our DC, Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Holly, would you like to take a moment and respond?
Yeah, absolutely. Just appreciate you taking the time to come here and voice some of the inequities in the process. And we can absolutely look at the process and see where we have the ability to modify it. But you taking the time to voice some of those concerns is important.
Thank you.
And did I hear correctly, you were selected already, or is this application live?
We've been selected and approved. We did rank 1 in community engagement, which is great. Typically how this process goes, though, is just some of the larger firms end up winning the RFPs that are on the list before we get an opportunity to. So we're just trying to ensure some of the companies that are our partners, like Street Roots, Agape Village, who scored lower on the list, like we collectively want to go after these contracts and feel like we have a shot.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rosenthal?
Just a quick question. You've been selected for what is the period of that the selection operates? In other words, what is the period that this is operative?
I believe it's 5 years. So we have time.
Okay.
And there's no RFPs that have been issued yet.
Okay. Thank you.
And I see Liam in the background. Liam, did you want to add anything?
I'm happy to meet with Cody outside of the class.
Okay, great. Thank you, Liam. Great, and thank you for coming in.
This is the part we get up and leave.
Yes.
And do
Thank
check in
y'all.
with Liam.
You're welcome
Check
to
in with
stay.
Liam.
All right.
Please check in
Liam
with
in the
Liam.
white shirt in the back.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Hey, thank y'all.
Thank you, Desmond.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. There's one item on today's consent agenda, item 3.1, resolution number 24-5429 for the purpose of appointing members to the Tri-County Planning Body. And
I move the consent agenda.
Second.
okay, well, moved by Councilor Lewis and seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, the consent agenda passes. And we'll move on to ordinances. Item 4.1, ordinance number 24-1517 for the purpose of amending Metro Code Chapter 2.19.120 and repealing Metro Code Chapter 2.19.140 to update procedures for Metro-administered community enhancement committees and to sunset the North Portland Rehabilitation and Enhancement Committee. So yes, we have one ordinance before us today for first reading and public hearing. Councilors, you're of course familiar with community enhancement grants, which are funded through fees at transfer stations and distributed to nearby communities. We want to thank the community partners who volunteer their time on these grant committees, as well as community-based organizations and our government partners at Forest Grove, Gresham, Portland, Oregon City, Troutdale, and Wilsonville for stewarding these grants over the years. As an administrator of these grants ourselves, we have an opportunity to improve the community's diversity and the community's access to this public process for the Metro Central Grant Program. And today we have Noel Dobson, Community Enhancement Grants Program Manager, to summarize the equity-driven changes in the ordinance and answer questions. And we'll turn it over to Noel.
Good morning, councilors, Deputy Council President Huang. I'm Noelle Dobson. I use she, her pronouns. I am a program manager in WPEZ's Community Waste Prevention Team. I manage the Community Enhancement Program and support other grant programs in WPEZ as well. I'm here today to talk about Ordinance 24-1517 that would amend a section of Metro Code Chapter 2.19, the chapter that sets rules for how Metro-led advisory committees are created. I'll give a moment for the slides to get up. Okay, great. I was expecting them there. I want to acknowledge my colleagues here today, Alejandra Cortez, Jennifer Payne, and Kelly Sherbo, who work alongside me on the program and who were very helpful in developing this amendment. Specifically, this ordinance would amend Section 120 to update the recruitment process for Metro-administered community enhancement committees and repeal Section 140 to eliminate the North Portland Enhancement Committee that is no longer in existence. Next slide. A majority of counselors play an active role in their local community enhancement programs, which are required by Metro Code 5.06 to be established at certain solid waste facilities. This Code 5.06 also states that each program will have a committee that selects funded projects, establishes the grant boundary, among other committee responsibilities. When Metro administers one of these programs, the specific direction for how the committee is recruited is detailed in Section 120 of Chapter 2.19. Next slide. One of the goals of the proposed amendment is to expand Metro's ability to recruit a broader range of applicants for the committee members serving on the Metro Central Enhancement Grant Committee and any other enhancement grant committee that Metro may directly administer in the future. Currently, Section 120 requires that 5 of our 7 committee members must be nominated by a neighborhood association. The amendment would remove this requirement and add the ability for Metro to recruit more broadly through the community. This amendment is very much in alignment with our community engagement practices for a wide range of Metro committees and other opportunities that community members have to engage with Metro. Our teams strive for inclusive engagement, and we know that we benefit from decisions that are made in partnership with a diversity of stakeholders in our region. Next slide. This amendment will advance equity goals and principles as articulated in our regional waste plan and Sporetti, including making investment decisions in partnership with impacted communities and increasing participation of people of color in Metro decision-making. Next slide. Here are the proposed revisions we present for your consideration. Amending Section 120 would remove the requirement that a majority of committee members are nominated by a neighborhood association. Staff will certainly continue to engage with neighborhood associations. They're important partners for this program, and will continue to encourage that they nominate representatives for the committees. This amendment would allow staff to recruit beyond neighborhood associations, also using our other networks of community organizations, businesses, and local civic leaders. Proposed language, as presented in Exhibit A to the ordinance, states that Metro will recruit from a pool of applicants invested in the enhancement area and who represent the diversity of the area's geography, residents, businesses, organizations, and communities, along with other relevant criteria. This amendment only impacts the process staff use to recruit committee members. No changes would be made to the process of how committee members are appointed. Committee members will continue to be appointed by the Metro Council President with full confirmation by the council, as they have in the past. In addition to being in greater alignment with Metro's best practices for community engagement, this change would support Metro staff by removing barriers that we have faced in recruiting full committees. Restricting recruitment primarily to neighborhood associations has presented challenges. Some of the neighborhood associations in the Metro Central area struggle to identify someone with the capacity to sit on the committee. For last year's funding cycle, we had to delay the cycle for 3 months because we were unable to find enough neighborhood association nominees for the committee. As a side note, our committee members do receive stipends for their participation on our committee. I want to also note that this proposed amendment would only impact committee recruitment for enhancement grant programs that Metro administers. Currently, that only includes Metro Central, with Councilor Nolan as our chair. No other enhancement grant committee that other councilors serve on in the region, such as City of Gresham, City of Oregon City, City of Sherwood, et cetera, would be impacted. Direction on committees where Metro does not administer the program is included in Chapter 5.06. Lastly, as part of this ordinance, staff is also requesting that council repeal Section 140 that refers to the North Portland Rehabilitation and Enhancement Committee. This committee was awarding funds that were generated at the St. John's landfill. The landfill is closed and that program has not been in existence since 2017. At that time, the remaining $1.3 million in the fund was invested into the North Portland Greenway Trail, and no further grants are available. So this is a code housekeeping action to remove reference to that past committee. So with that, I'll transition to Deputy Council President Huang for facilitating any questions or requests for further information. And I have no more slides. Yeah?
Good question. So can you tell me about the history of us administering versus all of the other community enhancements where we don't administer?
So Metro Code 5.06 says that the city that hosts the facility has essentially the right of first refusal to administer the program. It has evolved over the years, but a majority of our programs are administered by the local government in which the facility sits. When a city government declines to administer the program, then Metro has the ability to either administer the program ourselves or enter into a contract with a community-based organization to administer on our behalf. So currently there are two programs that are being administered by community-based organizations and one that is being administered by Metro directly.
So City of Portland at some point in time sent us written communication that said they would not like to administer this program.
Yeah, we have documentation of when the Metro Central program began and also when the Subtle Road program began, that they did not want to administer the program. More recently, when the City of Roses received their license, the City of Portland affirmed their decision to not administer that program. So yes, all the programs within the City of Portland are either administered by Metro directly or a community partner.
Okay. I mean, the Office of Civic Life at the City of Portland has been a wild roller coaster the past few years, and neighborhood associations have been asked to do more and be better. But in my mind, the opportunity for this kind of hybrid thing that has apparently not been working very well because we can't fill a committee is part us administering it, but relying on still the city and their infrastructure of neighborhood associations. Do you see it that way?
Yeah,
the
the
infrastructure
process-
is still the city.
As you say, the city oversees the neighborhood association structure, and we do have engagement with the neighborhood association representatives. We don't have direct communication with the city staff themselves when we are requesting nominations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll be done for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I was wondering if you might help project into the future how this might impact, how the code changes might impact like a future Metro system as we contemplate potentially new transfer center or transfer facilities and other, facilities in our distributed model. Like, does that carry forward? And then, if there is a new facility, would just follow the same procedure where the local jurisdiction that have right of first refusal and.
That would be my presumption based on the current code. Again, unless the council decided to take a look at that code right now, any new facility that is brought into the community enhancement program would be under those same rules, that the city that hosts the facility would have the right, the first right to administer the program. Again, if they were to decline, we would go back to option B, which is Metro can either administer directly or work with a community-based organization. In the last several years, we have increasingly expanded our partnerships with community-based organizations and learning more about the opportunities to work directly with community organizations to administer the program. But again, that only happens if the host city declines to administer.
And does this only apply to transfer stations?
I hesitate to get into the specific solid waste language that is in code, but essentially, yes, the 9 transfer stations around the region. Subtle Road Recovery Facility is a little different. Again, I'm happy to share that language with you directly about the types of facilities and the types of waste and how, that this charge is accrued on.
Because I think under the Recycling Modernization Act, we're contemplating different types of potential facilities. I'm just wondering if those would be covered.
My understanding is that right now they would not be. Code 5.06 and state law limits our ability to expand the type of facilities that we can accrue this community enhancement fund on. So I think it certainly is an opportunity with so many opportunities with the system facilities plan to take a look at that. If there was an interest in having an expanded, types of facilities that could be accruing a fee that's directed back in the community, that would definitely need to require changes to 5.06.
Okay. And then I'm assuming your team will be thinking more deeply about that.
Yeah, we work closely with folks on the system facilities plan.
Awesome. Okay. Any more questions?
Councilor
Oh,
Gonzalez.
sorry,
Yeah,
Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks, Deputy President Wong. Noel, thank you for carrying this work and bringing it to us. I know that CEP, like some of these changes we're making, are part of a broader strategy pointing back to, regional waste plan and a bunch of other work done by WPAS, especially to, empower communities and improve our equity outcomes and all that. So I just want to celebrate the hard work that it is to update code and to work with so many jurisdictional partners on these items. So can you talk to me generally for the life that we've had the CPs, like, how frequently have we made these, major, I don't want to say rule changes, but major updates that are like these sweeping updates to the program since it was first created? And also, with this recent round of major updates across the board for grant criteria and committee structure and on all that we're working to update, what has the general feedback been from our city partners or our community partners that are implementing the grant program on the ground? If you could kind of walk us through some of that experience and that you've been facing.
Sure. For the first question asking about the history of changes, I do have a document that I've prepared that kind of looks back on the long history of the Metro Central program. The Metro Central program was started about 30 years ago, and facilities have been brought on as they've been administered. So a number of facilities joined the program, for example, in 2015. So again, I can provide more detailed information about the code changes that have happened along the way. I think in summary, there have been relatively few code changes since the program began 30 years ago. There have been some adjustments to the amount of fee that could be collected. There's also been slight adjustments to the program goals, but it has been a considerable amount of time since the program as a whole has been updated. Again, to
really like help update it since it was created, right? So.
Yeah, and that's 5.06. What we're talking about today is 2.19, which is specifically about Metro administered committees. So there's all sorts of Metro committees in that code. The majority of direction for the community enhancement program is 5.06. Yeah.
Thanks.
Your second question, I want to make sure I understand it. You were referring to potential larger changes that may be happening around committee recruitment. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess the question was more so around, because this program is one of my favorite aspects of Metro, and we have direct involvement in so many communities throughout the region, in which we're able to allocate resources. I know we're talking specifically about the metro committees, but I was wondering more so what the general conversations have been like with our city partners that do implement CEP programs as we've engaged in this major round of updates.
Right. Since the other cities are not affected by this particular amendment that we've been talking about today, we've provided informational updates on that. Again, in 5.06 is the language that prescribes how those committees are created. I'll just say, to summarize, that the language says that those committees must consist of at least 5 members, may include the Metro Councilor who hosts the facility, 3 citizen representatives, and any city administrators. This local government also has the opportunity to designate itself as the committee. So there have not been conversations with the local committees about any code changes to change those activities. We have a group of the local administrators that I convene several times a year as a learning group where we share best practices. We do talk about how to manage successful committees, support committee members. In the 2021 intergovernmental agreement update with the cities, there was an additional requirement that citizen representatives are on the committee. Prior to that, there were a few of our committees that consisted of only the local city council and the mayor and the Metro Council. And now there's consistency that each committee has at least a couple citizen representatives. Yeah. Does that address your question?
It does, thanks.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Great. Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you. First, I just wanted to point out, I think there's a little bit of an inaccuracy in the staff report where it says, and I quote, quote, requiring that most members be part of a neighborhood association, end quote. I think you're getting at they need to go through an appointment process, engaging and being nominated by a neighborhood. They don't have to be part of.
Yeah, I appreciated that semantic distinction. You're right, they need to be nominated by a neighborhood association. And indeed, in some cases that has happened. In a couple of my instances when we have been unable to have a nomination from the neighborhood association itself, we have identified someone who lived in the community and then introduced them to the neighborhood association and supported them to share updates with the neighborhood association so that they continue to be updated about what's going on.
Fantastic.
So,
yeah. I mean, that is the short-term workaround, and I'm disappointed you had months where you couldn't move forward with that kind of workaround.
Yeah, it does have an impact on our schedule and the timeliness in which we're able to get the funds into the community. Yeah.
So I guess we're looking at changes that I will take Councilor Nolan's lead on, disappointing that they're not here today. But I guess I look at us kind of putting forward a plan where we mirror what the cities do. And I'm wondering if we explored doing something completely different, like a participatory budgeting exercise with these funds instead of setting up kind of a small town committee kind of feel.
I think there's opportunity across the whole slate of community enhancement programs to reconsider how these funds are distributed in the community. Certainly we're learning a lot about community-based decision-making and the impact that that can have in the community. We haven't had that particular conversation with Metro Central. I think certainly if we get direction from Councilor Nolan or from any of the councilors that they're interested in pursuing those opportunities, we definitely have staff expertise that can help inform how those changes might happen.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. But just first of all, a common response to Councilor Gonzalez is the committees that I've served on, they're happy with the process. There is some confusion and consideration on occasion of interpretation of the criteria for awarding grants. And I'm just wondering whether that is something that might be considered just a little more clarification. Different cities have different ways of interpreting it, and as you know, sometimes they sort of go, I don't know, maybe we can do this, maybe we can't. At any rate, I was just curious if there's any thought of doing any clarification on 506.
There has been no recent discussion about updating the program goals in 5.06. Again, updating the program goals would require a code change. In the code, it does state that committees must have all the program goals that are in 5.06. They are able to add additional goals if they would like. Oregon City, for example, has added a workforce development goal. Again, this is the kind of thing that we talk about with our local administrators in our learning cohort, because you're right, they are, the goals can be very broadly defined. We also, after, in the last year, we've done an analysis of the data from 2015 to 23 about what kind of grants have been given, and we were noticing that there were a number of grants that were maybe on the edge of how some of the program grants were interpreted. For example, some of the grants that are going to arts and culture programs, certainly something that enhances the community, but not something that was actually listed as one of the goals. So what we talked about was encouraging those local administrators to go back to their committee and say, hey, do we want to add a goal that specifically says we also want to fund arts and culture projects? So that is how we're able to add a little more definition around the program goals, which, as you say, as listed in 5.06, are fairly broad.
They have the ability to enhance or to clarify their goals on their own.
They do. They have the ability to set particular priorities for any funding cycle if they want to lift up one or two of the goals for a particular funding cycle. But again, all program goals need to be eligible in any program cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all. We'll now open our public hearing for ordinance number 24-1517. Georgia, could you please describe for the audience our procedures for the public hearing?
If anyone wishes to testify on ordinance number 24-1517, now is the time to do so. Public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes. I will manage a timer to go off at the 3-minute mark. If you have not already signed up to speak, you can do so now. If you are joining us on Zoom, you can sign up to testify by raising your hand on Zoom. Depending on your version of Zoom, the raise hand function has its own tab or is located within the reactions tab. Those calling in can raise their hands by dialing *9. If you are joining us in person, you can sign up by filling out one of the blue cards in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. For those joining us on Zoom, I will promote you to a full panelist when it is your turn to testify. I will call your name or phone number when it is your turn to testify, and a window will appear asking you to accept being promoted to a panelist. Once you click accept, the Zoom window will close for just a brief moment and before you rejoin as a panelist. As a reminder, you do not need to give your physical address. However, please introduce yourself for the record before testifying.
Okay, and do we have anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, we have one person signed up to testify. So I'll now call Carol Chazarek to the panel.
Great.
I haven't been here in a long time. Good morning. So are you Deputy President Wang and counselors? My name is Carol Chazarek. I'm here on behalf of Forest Park Neighborhood Association because our president, Dana Rosenlund, couldn't be here today. Our written testimony was sent in too late last night to make it in your packet, so I've provided printed copies that Georgia has, as well as of my testimony today. Dana asked, Counselor Nolan unfortunately isn't here. We've been trying to meet with her since March and haven't been able, her staff has not been responding, so we hope we can get that ironed out and meet with them soon. Full disclosure, I also happen to be the Multnomah County Community Representative on MTAC. Felt like I should let you know that. This process has left our neighborhood board with the impression that Metro decided we aren't diverse enough to represent our own neighborhood, even though no one from Metro has been to one of our meetings or events for years, nor has Metro staff asked us about our board or our neighborhood. We got that impression because while the explanation here today was that you can't get community members nominated, all the language in the reports and the ordinance are about diversity. We're puzzled by the idea that Metro staff who may never have visited our neighborhood would nominate candidates for the grant committee who would better represent our area. When we reviewed the staff report, we found the language that Councilor Lewis mentioned. Some of this change is based on a false belief that neighborhood nominees have to be a member of the neighborhoods, and that's not true. For example, our neighborhood could nominate someone who worships at a mosque that's under construction in our neighborhood. If Metro knows of groups representing people of color or historically marginalized communities in our area, we would love to connect to those groups and see if we can build a relationship with them. We oppose eliminating the neighborhood nominations from code for reasons explained in yesterday's letter. We suggested some alternatives in the letter. I don't have time to go into detail here, but please at least formally require that neighborhoods be notified about the recruitment, and add a requirement that the committee members come from across the grant area so we don't end up with a concentrated representation. We also ask you to add some standards about handling proposed changes to enhancement area boundaries, normal good government practices. And I've also got some information about our most recent two past representatives to the Central Grants Committee and attached more. One was an AIDS survivor and activist. She's been living with AIDS and been an activist for almost 30 years. She co-directed and produced a documentary about living with HIV that was broadcast on MTV from 1999 to 2004, inspiring over 180,000 kids to call and get information about safer sex. We were delighted to have her join our board after she served on the Grants Committee. Susan is another former FP&A board member who represented us on the committee after Jennifer. She became interested because of Jennifer's reports about the grant program. And this is another concern with eliminating the neighborhood representation, that we won't get those reports from these new representatives. Susan and her husband heard about 6 refugee kids from the Democratic Republic of Congo who were orphaned when their mother died as they were settling into Portland. Susan made it their mission to make sure these youngsters could stay together and finish the education their mother wanted for them. And I can't tell you how much time they spent with them, and they're really part of their family now. It's a wonderful story. And after one of those boys had a scary encounter with a Portland police officer in 2017, she asked our neighborhood to send a letter to the sheriff to raise awareness and try to ensure that people of color would be treated with respect by sheriff deputies.
You are
And
over time. If you could just share your
a
final
copy of that
remarks.
letter
Thank
is
you.
attached. Thank you. Thank you, Georgia.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor.
Great, thank you for coming in. Any more testimony?
I see no testimony from the audience, and there are no raised hands in the Zoom audience either.
Okay, well, seeing no more testimony, I'll close the public hearing. The second reading for council consideration, we'll have a vote on this ordinance on Thursday, September 12th, 2024. And with that, we'll move to Chief Operating Officer Communication.
All right, thank you so much. Well, first of all, welcome back from recess. You were missed. Lots has gone on. I want to share a few highlights for you today. Starting with our response to the heat in the area, the metro region is under an excessive heat warning, starting today at noon through Friday. The expected high for today is 101 degrees. So we'll have Metro South and Metro Central will close to public traffic at 2 today, and they will continue to accept commercial traffic until 4. And then obviously all of our metro sites will continue to monitor the temperature, and we will deploy safety and mitigation measures as necessary. We do anticipate some additional heat-related operational impacts through tomorrow, and we will keep you updated. In other news, also want to remind you that our general manager of venues, Steve Falstick, retired at the end of last month, and so we have our fabulous director of OCC, Craig Stroud, stepping in as interim, and Cindy Wallace will be backing him up at OCC. Several expo updates for you to keep you informed, starting with some of the community engagement activities for the expo project. Those are starting to wrap up with a series of virtual and in-person opportunities this summer, as well as online surveys with the Japanese American, Vanport, and Indigenous communities. That feedback will be used by the HSMC to develop concepts for meaningful memorialization of the site. Additionally, under the Sports and Facilities Committee, a select group of sports event and facility professionals are working to refine the 4 scenarios that Hunden presented to you at the June 25th joint meeting. That work will develop ultimately a preferred scenario for redevelopment. We also have our Expo Future Funding Task Force, which is led by our Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Andrew Scott, assessing a variety of funding, partnership, philanthropic, and sponsorship options to create viable scenarios to realize the Expo future. They expanded last month to include representatives from Portland Metro Chamber, Travel Portland, Multnomah County, Miller Foundation, Sport Oregon, and the council office. That work will create one or more funding concepts for your consideration at the next joint meeting. Expo Future has also retained Rose City Philanthropy to study the potential for regional philanthropic support for the Expo Future project. Metro will receive their findings this fall, which will also be factored into the project planning. And still on Expo, working with the Planning and Development Department, we're continuing conversations with the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program about the various ways in which their redevelopment will impact Expo, as well as exploring the necessary land use zoning changes that an Expo Future may require. Additionally, that project has recently contracted services from Finn Partners communication firm to create compelling and helpful communications about all of these opportunities that are moving ahead. So there's clearly a lot going on with Expo right now. Staff are busy working to deliver a vision plan to you at your December 10th joint MERC meeting. And don't hesitate to reach out to Paul Slyman for additional details about this giant body of work. And we can certainly get you more details as necessary. You will also look forward to seeing some amazing work at the zoo in coming weeks. They'll be offering briefings for those interested in advance of the September 10th work session review of the final Oregon Zoo campus plan, which will include implementation sequencing. And that plan is coming back to you on September 26th for adoption. And then wrap up with a couple just highlights from our housing department. We had a grand opening yesterday at Las Flores, a 171-unit apartment complex in Oregon City, built with support from the 2018 Metro Affordable Housing Bond. Nearly half the apartments have 3 or more bedrooms, helping families find affordable living. And 12 of the apartments were designated for agricultural workers who support Oregon's economy. It's a really big deal. And the complex came in partnership with Clackamas County and Hacienda CDC, among others. Huge thank you to Councilor Lewis for joining the event. And tomorrow we'll also be opening the Plaza Los Amigos, which is an 113-unit apartment complex in Cornelius that was also funded in part by the 2018 Metro Bond. Thank you, Councilor Gonzalez, for joining that important event. That complex will have 26 units of permanent supportive housing, and partners included Bienestar, REACH, and the Housing Authority of Washington County. And that's what I got for you.
It also has a futsal court, so it's kind of cool.
Amazing.
Great, well, it's good to be back. Councilors, any questions for Deputy COO Calhoun? No? Oh.
I think if I'll just share some appreciation, Holly, if you could, Marisa's not here as well, pass to her and to Andrew, the COO's office for the hard work on the Expo project, and especially Paul, who's not here. We have so many big committees that have some really high-profile executive leadership on them. And so I feel like when you bring that many people together that frequently, the stakes are so high to do right by people's time. And I just think that the work that the staff is doing to really ask the hard questions has been remarkable. And I really want to just celebrate that and extend my appreciation. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass along that gratitude. Thanks so much.
I would just second that. Their efforts have been remarkable and very good.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to Councilor Communications. It's been a month, so yeah, any communications?
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Councilor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, it was a quiet month. Nothing happened. Just, a lot of fruit came ripe. No, I wanted to report on two things. First of all, this year I had the opportunity about a week and a half ago to participate in the CDBG. For those of you who don't know, that's Community Development Block Grant Program, 50th anniversary of the Block Grant Program. And the reason I mention it is it's a federal program. I had the opportunity to talk to a congressional representative about it. It's the kind of thing for which funding has been gradually declining, or I should say not keeping pace with inflation, but it's a program that is very supplemental to to the kinds of things we do. It allows cities and our communities, and something we need to support them on, to do things that we can't do. For example, it's allowing Tualatin to put in a basketball court at a park that we couldn't put the basketball court in. It allows one of the housing projects out in Aloha to put in a roundabout which does traffic without having to go through a comprehensive traffic program. It allowed complete funding of the Sherwood Senior Center, something that we would have trouble doing, but that contribute to that a lot of times dovetail into the kinds of projects we're doing. It gives them, either transportation access and stuff like that. So it's an important program that we should just be aware of because it helps our communities, and it's the kind of thing that we can support. Sometimes it works directly with what we're doing, and sometimes it's supplemental to what we're doing. So I just want to report that. It was a very useful meeting. The other thing I want to report on is WEA had a meeting this morning on Transportation Committee. They have a robust process. It's going to have 2 webinars over the course of the next month and a half. They had both co-chairs McLean and Gorsuch were present at the meeting, talking about the robust process for getting everybody on board. Representative McLean stressed it's important to come up with something very concrete this year because we don't want to kick, her position was we can't kick the can down the road past 2025 in terms of transportation, both short-term, medium-term, and long-term funding. And there's a lot of different players and a lot of different aspects, but everybody seems to be at least in agreement that these are the goals.
Great, thank you. Let's go with Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you. Unfortunately, I have a long list. It was a busy month. So first want to thank Councilor Gonzalez and Simpson for joining me this morning for a tour of Kellogg Dam. Really wonderful conversation. And every time I'm on site, it's either extreme heat or extreme cold. So maybe I'll do the rest of y'all a favor and not come to the next visit on whatever the mid-month date is. Wanted to notify everyone that the Willamette Falls and Landings Heritage Area Coalition has publicly circulated, including a notification to Metro, their draft legislation. Again, we are a member of their coalition, so have been part of conversations in drafting this, but we are working alongside other municipalities and the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde in order to do the work to build support for a national heritage area that basically runs from the falls all the way to Newburgh. So that has been circulated, and appropriate staff here have eyes on it, but if anybody has questions, I'm happy to work one-on-one with you so you can review the draft. In addition to the tremendous day that we had yesterday at Las Flores in Oregon City, celebrating 171 units, last week I had the opportunity to break ground in Vuela in Wilsonville, and that is both funded through our affordable housing bond, but also TOD dollars because it's literally at a transit stop for SMART. So super exciting. And they had already broken ground, but we got to do the ceremonial shovel toss. Wanted to report back on this past month's Supportive Housing Services Tri-County Planning Body meeting. The Tri-County Planning Body obviously still is working towards the 6 planks of the objectives that we will establish regional program. We spent some time monitoring the implementation and then also talking about the potential for what TCPB would look like if there were to be a measure and if we were to have more streamlined governance and oversight structure. Members across the board were very clear that they don't see their roles being easily folded into an oversight committee that's past-looking because the work of TCPB is in forward-looking planning. So I do think that we will continue to hear the need for TCPB, even if it becomes lumped in as a subcommittee or some other organization of how it's managed. I do expect we might even start receiving some letters on that. And I'm happy to have those discussions because the work of TCPB has been frustrating, both in its pace, because planning at the tri-county level is really hard, and also in staff to staff from Metro to the three counties has really exemplified the challenges that the program is facing. Wanted to highlight a few other tours that I went on and highlight the support from Metro staff and you colleagues for making them happen. Councilor Gonzalez, you joined me on Sunrise with Commissioner Savis. Councilor Gonzalez, you and I saw the IBR. And then also got support from staff for the Oregon Agricultural Trust tour in Clackamas County. And then finally, there was the Wilsonville Housing Tour, where we were able to actually see not only Villebois, Town Center, Frog Pond, and all the good work that's going on. It was a busy month of tours. Thank you.
That's great. Councilor Gonzalez.
Yeah, thanks. Counselors, I was writing my list. I was like, I spent a lot of time with Christine this this recess, which was awesome. And specifically getting to learn a lot about big transportation visions and projects throughout Clackamas County. So really appreciate your leadership and helping put those together with your colleagues that you represent every day. And also just helping us to understand, or helping me to understand some of the opportunities out there, specifically with Sunrise Corridor, which is something that I know we're working a lot with our 2025 legislative vision and also other items at JPACT. I think in general, some other highlights, the Hillsborough Hops had their groundbreaking for the new stadium in early August. That was fun. They were able to piece together quite a comprehensive package of public-private resources to get that done. Again, it was just a few weeks ago, but did a Metro Central waste tour with Councilor Wong, and remember giving him tools so that he would start digging in the compost. And so we got real up and close with that. That was a good time. There was the I-5 Bridge tour in particular was really special, being there with Councilor Lewis, because we also had Paul Slyman there, Marisa Madrigal, our COO, was there, and we were able to have some quality time with the project team to really understand what the primary collaboration points with Metro are over these next few years as planning and design continues through some major milestones. And also, one of the things I talk a lot about with Councilor Simpson is workforce. So y'all might have seen, I shared some of this on the socials, but there's a really big semiconductor chips event in Woodburn last week with some congressional leaders and the director, one of the directors at the NSTC that came to Oregon to basically talk about how, as billions from the administration come into this important technology sector, like how we ensure that communities of color are getting resources to really, one, be skilled up and trained to be a part of this industry at all levels. So that was really a really special opportunity. And as many of you know, Oregon is one of the top competitors for landing the NSTC Research Center here in the Portland metro area, which I think would be transformational for our intellectual capital and also our ability to accelerate university research and bring a lot of really smart people here to. So anyway, yeah, I'll wrap up with saying that this Saturday is it's my birthday, so cool. But also we have our TV highway cleanup that we're doing. Really happy that the city of Cornelius is co-hosting with the D4 team. We have about 30 volunteers signed up. So if folks want to join, I was thinking about where are the sign up links? They're really on the social medias, so go find those out there, I guess. We'd love to host you, or send me an email. We can send you information. It's this Saturday morning before it gets hot from 8 to 10 a.m. In the city of Cornelius, and we'd love to have you there. This project is something that I've wanted to continue doing since I joined the council, bar those few years of the pandemic where we really weren't able to be outside meaningfully, to help the community come together and take care of an asset that we all use every single day in TV Highway. And my thought process is if we continue to show up for it and care for it and be stewards of it, then you know, it becomes a moot question of should we invest in it to improve it and make it safer. So yeah, it's exciting, and if anyone else is able to join, I know Councilor Rosenthal signed up and is going to be there, so I appreciate you for that. And I don't know if Councilor Simpson has his hands up, but Councilor Simpson got married, so hey, I mean,
I appreciate that.
you should say some words about that.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank all of my colleagues for all the hard work they've been doing all August, because I've been doing wedding stuff. So thank you.
Which is also hard work.
It's hard work.
The hardest work.
Hardest work. But yes, I married Esperanza Turbalon on the August 24th, and I'm just now coming back to work. It was a party. It was something to behold. So thank y'all for the support, the love. Appreciate the shout out, Juan Carlos. Thank you.
Okay, well, for me, I've been thinking about transit a lot. I'm happy to report that TriMet was invited to submit a full application to the Portland Clean Energy Fund for $67 million to support the 82nd Avenue transit project. Another Metro-supported application, the Rockwood CDC Foodways Corridor project, was also invited to submit for $20 million from a clean energy fund. So
When do we find out about that grant, do you know?
I believe October, November is the projected time. And speaking of 82nd, the US DOT also awarded another $9.6 million to 82nd Avenue for safety improvements. So just feeling a lot of momentum on the corridor there. And also just kudos to the planning team for supporting all these various applications and grants locally and at the federal level. So yeah, I went with Paul Slyman to an event where the Japanese ambassador and the Japanese consulate was here. This is kind of following up on our work on the expo. And just continuing to build those relationships for the future. And yeah, finally, just congratulations to Councilor Simpson.
Thank y'all.
And it's great to be back. Excited to dig back in for the fall. And seeing no further discussion, this council meeting is adjourned. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m.